IVM.
Hi everybody, just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today we have a very interesting subject that we're going to be talking about. It's one of my favorite subjects. It's about understanding money, understanding finance. Because this is such an important aspect of our life. You know, whenever we talk about security or the way that we want happiness in our life, we always have an aspect of, will I be financially secure? What is my future going to look like? What are all those aspects of my life regarding money? And we have a very, very special guest with us. I was on his podcast and it was one of the first podcasts I'd gone on as a guest. And it was also intimidating because he started off in this very professional voice. And I was like, oh my God, I have to keep up with this. How is this going to ever happen? So I've been for years waiting to have him on my podcast. Anupam Gupta, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Arjun. I had no idea that you were intimidated. I know that I'm a very scary guy in real life. But I had hoped that, things would be different in audio. But good to be on your show. Thanks so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. No, it was like Paisa Vaisa was one of the shows that I definitely wanted to come on. And we had our chat. And then suddenly when you started with your introduction, it was like a different voice started. I was like, oh shit, now I need a different voice. It was so cool.
Those were the days that we could we recorded in the studio. Seems like ages ago.
Studios. Yeah, absolutely. Anupam, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, I'm born and raised in Bombay, chartered accountant, and most of my career has been spent in the stock markets, where I was working first as an analyst and then as a consultant. What I do, what pays the bills, is writing research reports on investment themes, and I do that as a consultant. I've done it with a few large brokerage houses since 2013. So that's almost 8 years of writing. I'm working on a theme right now for one brokerage, for example. In 2020, I completed a book called The Victory Project, which I was very lucky to get, thanks to Saurabh Mukherjee, who was then with Ambit and now with Marcellus. He's also got a brand new book out called The Diamonds in the Dust. And guys, please go ahead and read it. I just finished it over the weekend and it's phenomenal. So that's the professional part, Ashdin. The personal part, of course, is the podcast. Back in 2017, Amit Doshi had approached me and we got talking and we just launched it. We really didn't know where it would go, what it would do. But listeners have given me such love that it's just overwhelming, right? It's 300 episodes plus more than 100 guests. The topics have been all over the place. And we just got lucky that I think post-pandemic, people have they just want to know how can they handle their money better. And I've been very lucky to get guests. So it's just, it's just pure luck. Love from the guests, love from the audience.
It's a brilliant podcast. I love listening to it.
Thank you.
And it's so interesting because like you said, right now, everyone's so confused about it, right? About the future. And as soon as uncertainty about future comes up, financial is something that definitely pops up. And we decided that we're going to be talking about financial principles that you believe in, at a personal level, more than just the professional level of understanding it. And I think this is something that I would love for our listeners to know. So according to you first, what is like this finance, accounting, money? What is money for you?
Money for me is just a means, Ashdin. Our life, I think, should be spent in doing what we love the most, or at least in being gainfully employed. Whether it's you doing a podcast that you love, or whatever is a full-time job, or me doing, But of course, I'm saying this from the perspective of a 50-year-old. When you're 20, 25, when you're just starting your career, you don't have that kind of luxury in life. You just get the first job that you can get. Hopefully, it's in something that you like. But I think as a core principle in life, money should be the outcome and it's not a goal. It's one of the many things in your life. So if you're someone who's working, your work should be more important to you than what your money is doing, whether it's in a mutual fund or whether it's in a portfolio. These days, I see, so many people obsessed about where is my money going? What am I doing? Listen, if you're a 25-year-old, you've got like a 35, 40-year span of time when you'll retire, and I don't know when people retire or what age people retire. You'll figure it out on the way. Don't be so obsessed right now. You should be looking at enjoying your work, slogging hard, doing what you love, and then just figuring out, okay, this is what I can spare, this is what I can save. That's money for me. It's a raw material that's linked to my dreams. Okay. But it's not my life. My life is, money is just one part. That I think is money. That I think is finance. You call it personal finance or you call it finance, whatever. That's how I relate to.
I think it's such a beautiful thing that you said. It's just the raw material, but it is not life. And we often mistake the two. What do? I work for money. No, you don't work for money. You work for a life that you're trying to create. It's what the money can do for you. And I think these are such important principles, and people don't talk about these things.
Yeah, well, one of the things, for example, that goes around a lot these days because people have just woken up to this idea of money is, physical health and financial health. I used to believe in that a long time ago. But now, listen, guys, I mean, try losing half a kilo and try putting 500 rupee in an SIP. Tell me what's easier. Just tell me what's easier. Believe me, your health is going to be much, much more important to your happiness, to your family, than your money. Your money will figure its way out. Even if you make mistakes, you'll get a chance. But your health, Ajin, you can, come on. You're someone who believes a lot in health, a lot in fitness. I remember when you had come over to my podcast, we were talking about this. And I like that people believe in that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the little things that you put in right now that will surely in the future pay off. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
So Anupam, what is your first big financial principle that you want to share with us?
So I think, like I said, the first financial principle I think is probably done, which is that let money work for you. Okay. You don't work for money. Okay. The second principle I would say is just save to the extent is humanly possible. Okay. You'll have to figure out your quality of life at some point of time. You won't get it right in the first shot. All of us, when we get our first salary, it's okay to blow it up. Okay. When I got my first credit card, I maxed out. And I then had to revolve. And that's how I learned my lessons. So I think saving is the second part. Third is be open. Be open, be kind to yourself. You make mistakes, that happens, man. I mean, the biggest investors in this world have made mistakes. I keep on making basic mistakes when it comes to money, my own money. I'll give you an example. I can't sign a check anymore. I try to put my signature on there. I've got to keep on tearing through that. Bank tells me the check has bounced. I'm like, come on. And there are people who still insist on checks. What can you do?
Okay. Correct. Absolutely.
So I think third. I think fourth most is one of the more important ones is risk. I think understand risk and how you relate to that. Okay, because your understanding of risk is going to have a very big bearing on the way that you invest in across the board, across whether it's a mutual fund, whether it's a stock, whether it's crypto, whether you choose to rent out, whether you choose to buy a house, etc. That's the fourth principle. Be clear about the kind of what's your relationship with risk. It's called a risk profile in technical terms, but play around with that and see how you relate to it. Everybody likes to say that I have no problem. This is the money that I'm willing to lose. But when you actually lose it, believe me, it hurts a lot. Okay, so a lot of the bets that you take in life are related to how you do your risk. So that's the fourth principle. And I think the fifth principle is safety. Safety, how does money relate to you when it comes to safety? Safety of, say, insurance, that how important it is for you to have a Medicare, Mediclaim, whatever you call it, a health insurance policy. How important is it for you to have a life insurance policy? Or one of the most basic and most starting points of any financial plan, emergency fund. What do you define as safe? Some people would say, I'll put it in a liquid fund. Some people would say in an FD. Some people want to put it in stocks, but that's a different thing. And how much do you want to put? Do you think you want to risk it by just keeping 3 months apart? Or because of the pandemic, you're really scared you want to keep 1 year? So I think that's how I would define it. These would be the 5 principles that I would be looking at.
Lovely. Can we deep dive into these 5? Because I think they're so important, and to figure out what are the habits that we can do for each of these. So for example, the second principle was saving, right? So when we think about saving, right, what are the best habits or practices that you've seen amongst people on getting saving as a part of their life financially?
Saving, see, there are ways to look at it, right? One is, again, it has to do with how you relate to it. Warren Buffett famously said that you first save and then you spend. What is left after saving is spending. Okay, that's one point of view. A lot of people want to live it up. Today, people want to say that, at the end of 1 year of working, I want to take a foreign vacation. People want to buy an iPhone, so stuff like that. I'm kind of conflicted on this one. That's why I leave it to the person who's listening to this, right? To you, savings is plays a very important role in your financial plan. Ideally, you should save as much as you can. Okay. Does that mean that you cut down on your lifestyle? Yes, why not? Nobody says that you have to buy the most expensive iPhone. Okay. You have to buy the latest phone that's out. So you need to figure out how you relate to these lifestyle decisions. whether it's a phone, whether it's a TV, Amazon billion days sale is coming up. Do you want to splurge on that? And whether you want to go on foreign vacations and stuff. If you're someone who believes in having a fairly reasonable life, then saving upwards of 30% should be a bare minimum. Okay. Typically these days, people, 30%, 50% goes into whatever, your commute and your food. Another 15-20% goes into your house, whether you're paying rent. If you're lucky enough, maybe you're staying with your parents, great. And then the balance 30% is what's left. My suggestion would be save higher and start early. I think, if I have to encapsulate all the 5 points, then it would be start early. Starting early gives you a lot of freedom in life. Starting early gives you a lot of advantages also.
So, that's an interesting one, because many people say that I can't start early because I only have so little savings, right? I only save like, say, 5,000 rupees a month, even less. What do I do at that point of time?
Fantastic. Right? That's a very good question. In that case, just stick to that number. And more importantly is discipline. Doing 5,000 month after month without even breaking once is going to teach you discipline. It really doesn't matter whether it's 5,000 or 5 lakhs. Okay. But if you can discipline yourself and keep that habit over the longer term, it's going to pay you off. Okay. I mean, the difference between starting early and starting late is simple. Yeah. You lose the number of years. So you have to increase the amount that you save. That's all. Right. You start a 500 rupee SIP or a 1,000 rupee SIP at the age of 25. By the age of 35, in 10 years, you've already got a corpus. Now, someone who's starting at 35 has to make up for that much of 10 years, of 10 years being lost. Can you do it? Of course you can do it. Who knows? You might have a great job, you might have become a successful person. And at the age of 35, if you're able to save a meaningfully larger amount of money, then good for you here, But you know how life is, it's a little bit unpredictable. Who knows what happens? Starting early, putting in a discipline, reduces the uncertainty that is there later in your financial plan, because you know that you're putting this month after month after month after month. Getting that discipline later in life, I've always found some things start working differently in your head. If you're someone who spends a lot, it gets a little bit tougher to start saving a lot. So if you train yourself, 5,000, 500, 1,000 doesn't matter. I would always encourage you to look at the percentage rather than the number. So if you're earning a 10,000 rupee per month salary, just say that I'm going to do 30%. Khatam, that's it. And remember that when your salary increases, your savings will increase because you're fixed on the 30%. So that's how I would put it.
Instead of thinking of the number, think about the percent. I think that's a big learning for us. Stop thinking how much you're putting in terms of figures. Start thinking percentage. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Shunya One, Sheila Ditya and myself are joined by Ashish Dave, CEO of Mirai Asset Adventure Investments. We talk about their current investment bets and how COVID has affected the funding process. On Getting Meta, marketing professional Lavanya Mohan shares with Chuck how content is always determined by the audience. On Candid Kanan, Kunal Kapoor, Dino Moria, and Drashti Dami join Siddharth to talk about their latest release, The Empire. Learn how to be a business champ on The Habit Coach as Ashdin talks to Malay Damania, business coach and author of Business Champ. And on Tere Mere Raste, Keshav recounts the night he first visited Kashmir under the black cloud of terrorism. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week on the network, Fiat Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch Kuber, and Intuit India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back. Let's jump into the conversation. A family member of ours, every time somebody is born, they start a savings right from the time the kid is born. Every month, they'll put something in that kid's account. Do you think that's an interesting practice? Do you think that's something that everyone should do, or is it jarak extreme?
From birth?
From birth.
I have a 13-year-old, and I started something when he was just born, but then I just gave it. I don't be that much of a sticker. With a kid, you've got a much longer lifespan to think about. And if you've got your finances sorted out, don't obsess so much for the kid. For the kid, you should be doing this. It's like they say in the planes, right? First, put your oxygen mask and then look at the others. So please first sort your life and then figure out something for your kid.
Yeah, and it is called savings for a reason. I'll tell you. Kids are damn expensive. Yeah. One kid or one Porsche to decide. So the way to think about it is, one is start your savings early as much as possible. Think percentage. Lovely. Now, after that, the second aspect of it was make mistakes. I love this thing about saying that I've made mistakes in the past. It's cool. right? Like you said, I got my first credit card, right? Take us through that journey of getting your first credit card and getting into this whole revolving thing. And what is it that you learned from it?
Yeah, I just pay your bills on time. I mean, much before Paisa Vaisa. See, the thing is that, okay, people also need to have some background. I haven't had a salary since about 8 years now. Okay. Which means that my entire income and expenses are just all over the place. Okay. So credit card gives me liquidity. But fact is that I've been using credit card since my first job. And the first time when that credit card bill came to me and it had these nice big numbers which made no sense to me. I mean, look at it this way, so I got my first mobile phone in the year 1999, and where I was working, they gave mobile phones only to the senior employees, and I was a junior at that point of time. And the senior employees went and got themselves a very reasonable Nokia, one of those nice, those black bricks. I thought I'll splurge it. What the hell? I think my salary was 25,000 and I bought a Samsung 20,000 rupee phone. Okay.
Wow.
Using the credit card, and it got stolen at Siddhivinayak temple in exactly 4 days. I never got it back. Ever. Your mobile phone gets stolen at temple, it's not coming back. If it does, then lucky you. But I think that, that kind of taught me a lot at that point of time. That I just calm down. Just calm down. Those guys are your, they're your bosses, their salaries are higher. So let them figure their life out. You figure your life out. So that it hurts a lot. Being flat broke and knowing that you don't have any money. Okay. And this is something that's happened to me previously also back in college when I used to trade stocks and I was wiped out completely. Okay. Like literally I didn't have any money in the bank at that point of time. And my parents had to bail me out. My friends had to bail me out. So when you've got that experience of being completely wiped out, sticks with you, In a lot of my work for a couple of books that I have worked on, I've met a lot of successful people. And one recurring theme you'll find a lot of them saying is that I've seen poverty and I never want to go back to it. Okay. Thankfully, I've been very lucky to not know poverty as such. But these mistakes now, when the mistakes that hit you mentally will stick with you. Okay. So whether it's buying the wrong stock, whether it's maxing out your credit card, and once a mistake sticks with you, if you're disciplined enough, you will never forget that lesson. Okay. If you've got a bad habit, you got to sort your life out, man. I can't do anything out there. I just can't do anything out there. But if you use credit cards, then you have to pay the bills on time each and every month to get the rewards that are there. Thankfully, today, millennials have many more options. A lot of guests have come on my podcast with something called buy now, pay later. So when you're ordering from a Zomato or Swiggy, you don't have to use your credit card. You can just you'll use a Simple, or if you're on Amazon, you'll use a buy now, pay later. So use all of this with some amount of discretion. Don't go overboard. Okay. Learn from your mistakes. That's what my journey has been. I'm sharing that here.
No, but because that journey is important. Like for example, many people are so scared of making any financial decisions because they made one bad financial decision at some point of time in their life.
Don't be tough on yourself. Man. Never ever be tough on yourself. That's one principle. Right? Be open-minded. Just be very open-minded to doing things differently and learning from your mistakes. I mean, don't let success go to your head, because in money, success typically is mostly luck and not skill. And don't take your mistakes that seriously, because your mistakes are also probably in that ratio. I haven't met many people who've made spectacular blunders. Okay, like spectacular blunders. If they have, they learn from it. But buying a stock that completely collapsed, okay, fine. You learn from that. You learn, and the next stock that you buy will be different. And the same for mutual funds, the same for everything else. So don't ever be too hard on yourself, but learn from your mistake.
This learning is important. Like if you don't learn, then it was a proper failure. But if you learn, it's not a failure anymore.
And also the thing with, especially on the investing side, now I'm not talking about the spending side, okay? Because if you're someone who's spending and that guy is spending so much, I want to spend more than him, buddy, then you got a problem out there. Okay? You need to think that out. But in investing, that guy is making more returns than me is a bit of a pain point. And especially when markets are freaking out like they are now. You look at his portfolio, the guy's portfolio is up, I don't know, 80, 90%, your portfolio is up just 30, 40%. And that kind of sucks. And that also goes into mutual funds, right? So the mutual funds that you chose are not doing well, which actually happens a lot these days. Okay. That's how life is. So go back, do your homework, understand how to choose a mutual fund. Today, there are all sorts of options. There is knowledge all over the place. Believe me, when I started out back in 99, there was nothing. Okay. So max out your knowledge, do whatever you can, reach out to people on social media and learn. And like I said, be kind to yourself. Making mistakes, that's fine.
Yeah. And it also relates to that other point, starting early, because if you start early, you learn faster, then you have more experience as you grow. That's when the big bucks actually start coming into your savings and everything else. So Might as
Yes,
well start
again,
early.
yeah. Starting early gives you the freedom to make more mistakes, learn more. So at the age of 35, you already learned your lessons, and you're a much smarter guy than you were at 25. That's again one advantage. Yeah, you're right.
So I know lots of people write in saying that, like you said, flat broke. I'm flat broke. I have no money at all. That I have no idea what to do. What advice would you give to somebody who's flat broke, completely spent everything, has nothing in their bank account? Where should they start?
So one, I think definitely is figure out what you're good at, what you love to do. Two would be very, very disciplined. You'll have to be tough on yourself. Okay, because whether it's a great life or whether it's money, whether it's whatever, hard work is something that people need to be very aware of. It's not a comfortable life. Being flat broke sucks, but if you have to pull out of it, it's not going to be an easy journey. So be prepared for an uphill battle, but know that the rewards will be really good. So there are two things that I would start off on. If you've got a job, then great. Okay, try on focus on being better and better at your job. Okay, I know jobs are politics. I know I can't do anything about that. I don't want to go in that direction because that's another massive topic. Work hard at your job. Be very severe and brutal with your savings then. Okay, if your salary is coming at the end of the day, if you're flat broke, man, I'm sorry, but if you have to survive on Maggie, if you have to survive on stuff like that, so that you can save on not spending on Zomato, Swiggy, you got to do that. Recycle clothes, you got to do that. So whichever area of expenditure that you can really crunch, you got to crunch that. You got to think minimalistic, stoic. You got to really go down that path. For some people, this is actually a normal way of life, by the way. So that's one thing. And second is, I think what's popularly known these days as side hustles. See, being flat broke, simple here. You just need to increase your income. That's it. There is literally no other way out of it, right? Because income minus expenditure is equal to savings. If your income is zero, your expenses won't stop. Believe me, that I can tell you. Whatever life you're living, wherever you are, if you're in a big city, expenses will never stop. Okay, I can't see any life where expenses stop. Okay, so the income is what you have to obsessively focus on. Whether it's one job plus a side hustle, whether it's a consulting thing, whether it's freelancing, whether it's whatever, you got to look at all of those options to increase your income. Increase the income, be really, really strict on the expenses. Over a period of time, you will figure it out. Please don't put your savings straight away into the stock markets, okay, or into investments. Just sweep aside all that money into a fixed deposit or a debt fund, depending on your risk profile, and build up a nice corpus for at least 3 months before even thinking that you want to invest 10 rupees into wherever, buying this stock or crypto or whatever. Build up a big corpus. This emergency corpus is critical. It was very important before COVID. Now, though, it's become even more important. And I think having a buffer gives you tremendous freedom. See, the thing about money can never ever buy you happiness, but money can definitely play a big part in getting you freedom. Okay, so build up that corpus, and then once that tough time is over, then figure out your life. But just be prepared for an uphill battle. That'll be like my 4-word takeaway.
Uphill battle, I love that. And what you said, money doesn't buy you happiness, but another way of thinking about it is that this is giving you some peace of mind, right? And when you're flat broke, peace of mind is right now what you need more than anything else.
Money can increase your options like nothing else can, believe me.
Correct. In fact, I wanted to ask a strange question to you. We were talking about mistakes that people make. One is flat broke, but the other extreme is when suddenly you get into a lot of money, right? You sold something, you got inheritance, some money came from somewhere else, your old investment suddenly happened, right? Again, lots of mistakes take place at that point of time. Why do you think that happens, and what should people do about that? Have you ever experienced this? Do you know people who have gone through things like that?
Yeah, it depends on how the money came in. That plays a big role because our mind, and this has been proved now, you look at it neurologically or cognitively, there have been enough studies that show that our mind likes to make shortcuts, okay, to figure out our way in life. So there's a whole list of biases: recency bias, representative bias, anchoring, stuff like that. They affect the way we look at money a lot, at our investments a lot. So typically, when you say that you come by a large amount of money, it depends how it came by to you. Let's say, for example, if you're working hard and you get a nice big fat bonus, okay, you think you earned it. Okay, I'm sure you have, right? Because a bonus is the company's best way of recognizing your efforts over the last 12 months and saying, okay, now here's this big pot of gold, boom, okay. Versus a stock that you got 6 months ago goes up 10 times. Okay, how are you going to relate to the two? This one you think you've really, really earned it. Second one, you'll be like, I think I can now play around with this money. Okay. You're someone who's really rich, you'll say, okay, let me buy a new car. Let me buy a new watch, stuff like that. Remember, the amount of money, the color of money in the bank is not going to change whether it came from here or whether it came from there. But your brain is looking at both of them in a very, 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 very different manner. Okay. I mean, look at it this way. You had a finance secretary who 2-3 years ago said that capital gains comes from no effort. Okay. You just Google that, this was when they were putting capital gains tax on the stock market. So his whole thing was, what is stock market, man? You make money for what? Nothing. So how you look at that money and how you associate that money, the way it came in, will decide how you spend it. Okay. The standard answer to this that I give is that put everything into either a debt fund or liquid fund or an FD, whatever is comfortable to you. Because to me, what's important for any kind of money, especially the one that comes in a windfall, is preservation of capital. Okay, because this is a big sum of money. You cannot decide how to spend it like that. Okay, you need to really figure this out. It's happened with me in the past. I've taken anywhere from 15 days to 3 months. Okay, so the first thing that I do for myself, okay, I wouldn't want to make specific recommendations here, but the way that I've always figured this out, I've always put everything into an FD. Okay, then I start breathing. Said, okay, okay, now that is done, now let me see what options are out there, and then I'll see each and every option, the potential returns that each option can give me over the next whatever is my time period, by the way, because you also need to have a time frame for that, and then put your money that way. Simple, And so, for example, what I've done in the past, the entire money goes to a debt mutual fund, and then I create an SIP that goes into an index fund, a Nifty index fund, Sensex index fund. So that's a very simple debt to equity transfer. Debt gives you stability. Equity gives you that, that potential of a higher return. That's one of my favorite things. So put it here, transfer it there, but transfer over a period of time. So that in equity, since prices fluctuate a lot, you get to play around with time. Okay, that's my first option. Second is if you're someone who has got big aspirations, okay, that maybe at the age of 35, you want to buy a house when you're 40. Okay, so if you've got this windfall, please hang on to it. Okay, think whether you want to put it into something that's risky or something that will preserve that capital and give you, even if it's 5%, 6% year after year, but you're guaranteed you'll get your money back, right? Because when the time comes to buy a house, you're going to need like a big chunk of money for making the down payment. Okay, so that's example number 2, right? And third is, honestly, if you're rich, what do you care? Go do whatever you want, buy a car, buy a watch. Please ensure that you don't bet everything on whatever you're doing. So those are the 3 ways that I look at this.
Lovely. Because I was talking to somebody who sold a company and they were like, now I have no idea what to do with this money. And I was like, yeah, because we know so many people who suddenly get money or somebody else was talking about it.
Lot of the startup founders are, in the same situation. Why do you think wealth managers have had a phenomenal year in the last 1 year? And I've had a few wealth managers on my show, because these startup founders are typically techies, so they don't. Some of them might know that they know money, but suddenly there's, they have like 10 crores in the bank. Now, what do you do with 10 crores, man? Okay. Actually, even I don't know. Maybe you want to use it for your next startup. Okay. Maybe you want to invest in your friend's company. I don't know. But again, that whole scale, right? The risk scale. If you're someone who likes to take a lot of risk, you might just say, this came from my venture. Let me put it in 5 different ventures. Okay. If you're someone who's like ultra safe, you'll just take that entire 10 crore and I don't know, put in an FD. And say, yeah, that gives me a very decent 10 crores into 5% is like some 50 lakhs or 50 lakhs per year. 50 lakhs per year, boss, that's like 4 lakhs a month, man. What else would you need in life? You can just do whatever you want. Okay, so it depends on where you are on the risk spectrum.
Beautiful. Anupam, I love this conversation. How can people get in touch with you, find out more, and keep in touch with this conversation, keep it going?
P50 on Twitter, man. If anybody is on Twitter, then that's me. If you guys want to drop me a mail, anupam9gupta@gmail.com. My LinkedIn is open. Twitter, is there. Whichever way you want to reach out to me, man. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I'm writing a book also for the rest of this year. Hopefully, I hope to finish the manuscript by the end of this year. And I hope that will answer, a lot of the questions that I get from time to time. And also, if it's good, help people out.
Superb. And please go listen to Paisa Vaisa and share it and tell everybody about it. Anupam, thank you so much for coming on the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you for having me here, Rajan. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right, that was such a fantastic episode, understanding money. Money is such an important thing in our lives, and nobody teaches these things to us. So I'm so happy Anupam was there to teach us about it. And we're going to continue these principles in the second part of this episode. So don't forget to join us for that on Thursday. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM Network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME 180. That's Awesome 180.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy. If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.